Ever had a tiny, unexpected warning stop a catastrophe before anyone else even sees the risk? That's exactly what happened at the city's fanciest café, when a street kid yelled 3 words that no billionaire and no one around her was ready to hear. The Café Imperial was the kind of place you don't just walk into. You enter like a museum. Marble tables polished to a mirror shine, sunlight catching the rims of crystal glasses, and waiters moving so smoothly you'd think they were on rails. It sat right at the heart of the city's wealth district, a meeting hub for board members, senators, tech founders, and old money that had been steering the region for decades. Inside, everything was engineered for exclusivity, soft classical music, floral arrangements that looked like they'd been tuned for a photo shoot, and a menu designed to sound like art. The air carried the warm scent of fresh coffee and baked bread, layered with a faint, expensive perfume from the lilies on every table. At the center of this carefully controlled ecosystem sat Evelyn Marlowe, 65, billionaire, and the kind of name that made headlines move. She wore an emerald green silk dress that matched her mood, calm, collected, unbothered, and a pearl necklace that caught the light the way a polished lens catches a spotlight. If you didn't know who she was, you'd still feel her gravity. People around her spoke a little softer without noticing they'd done it. Beside her sat Claire, her assistant of 12 years, and the person everyone assumed Evelyn trusted more than anyone on earth. Claire was polished in that corporate way, perfect posture, perfect smile, perfect timing, like a human version of a well-trained autopilot. In front of Evelyn was a steaming bowl of soup and a sliced loaf of artisanal bread arranged like a brochure photo. It should have been a normal lunch for powerful people who lived on schedules. But across the street, outside the Café Imperial's spotless glass windows, an 11-year-old girl named Sophia stood frozen on the sidewalk, and to her, something about that scene was not just wrong, it was dangerous. Sophia didn't look like someone who belonged anywhere near Café Imperial. Her hair was tangled from sleeping rough, her sweatshirt worn thin at the elbows, and an old backpack hung off one narrow shoulder like it weighed more than she did. She was a street kid, invisible to almost everyone who walked by. The city had taught her to survive by reading people quickly and trusting her instincts even faster. She knew how to spot a bad situation the way a mechanic spots a leak. Not by waiting for the whole system to fail, but by noticing the tiny anomalies people ignore. She wasn't there to beg or steal. She'd been hovering near the cafe for a while, because the smell of food was doing what hunger always does, pulling her closer. But then she saw something that snapped her out of the fog of starvation. Through the glass, she watched Claire lean in toward Evelyn's table. It looked casual, like 2 women sharing a quiet moment. Claire tilted her hand slightly, and a small stream of liquid slipped from a tiny vial into the soup. It was quick, clean, practiced. Most people wouldn't have caught it, but Sophia did. She felt her stomach drop the way it does when you realize you've just seen a safety interlock bypassed. She put something in the soup. The thought hit Sophia so hard, she stopped breathing for a second. Her mind raced. If she was wrong, she'd be kicked out. Maybe arrested, maybe humiliated. If she was right and did nothing, someone could die. She looked around at the sidewalk, crowd well-dressed people threading past her like she wasn't there. No one was going to help. No one was going to believe a street girl over a billionaire's right hand. But Sophia had lived long enough to know that sometimes the most critical warnings come from the edges of the system, not the center. Inside the cafe, Evelyn picked up her silver spoon, the kind that probably cost more than Sophia had ever held in her life. Claire smiled serenely. "You're going to love this, Evelyn. It's a new recipe from the chef. I made sure to order it especially for you." The spoon lifted toward Evelyn's lips. Sophia's pulse went into overdrive. She didn't think. She moved. She pushed through the cafe's glass door, ignoring the maître d' stepping forward with a disapproving look, and walked straight toward Evelyn's table like a person who had nothing left to lose. "Don't eat that!" she shouted. Her voice cut through the cafe's low buzz like a fire alarm. Silence slammed down instantly. Forks paused midair. A wine glass stopped halfway to someone's mouth. Heads turned in unison. The room locked onto this thin, scrappy kid, standing next to the most powerful woman in the city. Evelyn froze with the spoon hovering inches from her mouth. Her eyes lifted slowly to Sophia, puzzled and alert. Claire's reaction was faster and colder. The smile vanished. "You who let that child in here?" she snapped, voice sharp, eyes like ice. Sophia's hands shook, but her stare stayed fixed. She pointed directly at Claire. "I saw you. You put something in her soup. Don't eat it. Please." The air went heavier than before. Evelyn set her spoon down carefully. "That's a serious accusation, young lady," she said, voice calm but edged with authority. Claire let out a laugh, but it came out too tight. "Ridiculous. Evelyn, she's lying. She wants money or food." She turned on Sophia with open contempt. "You get out before I call security." Sophia swallowed hard, feeling the whole room pressing in. But she'd already committed. "I'm not lying. I saw her pour something in when you weren't looking. I know you won't believe me, but it's the truth." Something about the way she said it, no begging, no theatrics, just blunt insistence made Evelyn hesitate. Evelyn had spent her life analyzing risk, reading people, watching for telltale signs. She didn't get to her position by ignoring weak signals. She turned slowly to Claire. "Claire," she said, voice dangerously steady. "Is that true?" Claire acted wounded. "Oh, of course not. You've known me for 12 years. Why would I do that? This girl is trying to cause drama." But the cafe was watching now. Murmurs rose like static. Sophia leaned in, urgency tightening her voice. "Gee, test the soup. Get a lab. Get a doctor. Anything. Just don't eat it." For the first time, Claire's mask slipped. Her fingers gripped the chair arm so hard her knuckles went white. She avoided Evelyn's eyes. Engineers know that when a component suddenly runs hot under a light load, it's not nothing, it's a sign. Evelyn saw it too. "Why are you so tense?" Evelyn asked quietly. Claire snapped back too fast. "Because this is insane. She's a street kid. Let's not waste our time." Sophia took one step closer and pointed at the bowl. "If you're so sure, eat it yourself." The challenge landed like a hammer. Claire opened her mouth, then closed it. Her gaze flicked to the soup, then away. "I don't need to prove anything," she said, voice wobbling. Evelyn didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She signaled to the maître d', "Call the police, and bring me my phone. We're having this analyzed right now." Claire went pale. She started to rise, flight reflex firing, until Evelyn lifted a hand without looking at her. "Sit down." Now the whole cafe was silence again. But it wasn't the polite silence of luxury. It was the tense, waiting silence of a room that senses a catastrophic failure could be minutes away. Sophia stood back slightly, breathing hard. She felt a flicker of relief that Evelyn was taking her seriously. But she also knew what was coming next could be worse. Police sirens wailed closer, and 2 officers stepped inside, scanning the scene. One, a tall man with a no-nonsense posture, approached Evelyn. "Ms. Marlowe, we got a call. What happened?" Evelyn gestured at the untouched soup. Evelyn. "Ms. Marlowe, we got a call. What happened?" Evelyn gestured at the untouched soup. "This girl claims my assistant tampered with my food. I want it investigated immediately." The officer turned to Sophia. "You saw something?" Sophia nodded. "I watched her pour liquid into the soup when Ms. Marlowe wasn't looking." "I'm not lying." Claire jumped in with indignation. "This is absurd. She's homeless. She's fabricating it." The officer raised a hand to quiet her. "We're not deciding that yet. We're investigating." Evelyn crossed her arms. eyes locked on Claire. You're awfully defensive for someone innocent. Claire's breath hitched. She tried to pivot. Anyone could have tampered with that soup. How can you say it was me? The officer nodded toward the ceiling. Then we'll review security footage. If you did nothing, you have nothing to fear. Claire froze. That gave Evelyn her last data point. She took her phone and dialed. Dr. Harris? It's Evelyn Marlowe. I need you at Café Imperial immediately. I believe something may have been added to my food. She hung up, the decision already made. Claire leaned toward Sophia, voice low and venomous. Do you think you've gained anything from this? Sophia flinched, but Evelyn cut her off. Enough. If she's lying, we'll know. If she's right. Evelyn's voice dropped to ice. Then you're responsible for whatever you tried to do. A middle-aged man arrived in minutes carrying a briefcase. Dr. Harris greeted Evelyn and went straight to work, taking samples. The cafe watched like a jury. Claire tried one last time, voice cracking in self-pity. Evelyn, this is humiliating. After years of loyalty, you're treating me like a criminal because of a child who sleeps on sidewalks? Evelyn didn't answer. Her silence was the kind that ends arguments. Dr. Harris looked up after preliminary testing, choosing his words carefully. There are traces of an unknown substance in the soup. I can't identify it precisely. The room erupted softly, Evelyn's face drained of color. Claire took a step back, eyes wide. That proves nothing. Anyone could have... I saw you. Sophia cut in, voice steady and urgent. Stop lying. The officers exchanged glances, then one stepped toward Claire. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Claire panicked. You're making a mistake. But the cuffs clicked shut anyway. She was led out past shocked patrons, screaming that she'd been framed, that this was all a setup. Evelyn didn't move. She watched the woman she'd trusted for more than a decade disappear through the doors, like a piece of her life being pulled out by force. When the cafe finally began to exhale, Evelyn turned toward Sophia. Her gaze was sharp, assessing, but softer now. You saved my life, she said. Thank you. Sophia's chest loosened like a knot letting go. She hadn't realized how hard she'd been holding herself together. I just did what I had to, she whispered. Evelyn studied her. What's your name? Sophia. Evelyn repeated it, as if engraving it into memory. Why did you risk this? Why not walk away? Sophia swallowed. Because it was wrong. I couldn't watch someone die. Doesn't matter who you are. Evelyn leaned back, letting the truth settle. You have a kind of courage most people with power never develop, she said quietly. And from what I can see, life hasn't been kind to you. Sophia nodded without drama. It hasn't. Evelyn's face hardened, not at Sophia, but at the reality. Where are you living? Sophia looked down, fingers worrying the frayed cuff of her sleeve. Nowhere, really. I go where I can. Sleep where I can. Evelyn was silent for a long beat, then made a decision with the same certainty she used to sign corporate deals. That ends today. Sophia looked up, confused. What ends? This, Evelyn said, voice firm. You're not going back to the street. You saved me. I'm going to make sure you have a safe place, food, education, a real chance to build a future. Sophia stared, disbelief flooding her face. You're serious? Evelyn's mouth softened into the first genuine smile Sophia had seen on her. Oh, yes. No child should face the world alone, and not one who just risked everything to save a stranger. In the following days, Evelyn did exactly what she promised. She moved Sophia into a safe home on her estate, set her up with a doctor, a counselor, new clothes that fit, and a school placement that didn't treat her like a charity case, but like a student with potential. The story spread fast. Street girl saves billionaire from poisoning ran on every channel. People called Sophia brave, called it a miracle, called it fate. Reporters dug into Claire's background, and what surfaced wasn't just one act of jealousy. There were hidden debts, resentments, and a slow-burning greed that had been building for years. But Evelyn didn't dwell on Claire. The betrayal hurt, sure, but it also clarified something she hadn't fully admitted to herself in a long time. Power can make you insulated, and insulation is where danger hides. Sophia was the alarm she didn't know she needed. One afternoon, walking with Sophia through the gardens behind Evelyn's mansion-wide lawns, old oak trees, the kind of place Sophia had only ever seen from outside fences, Sophia finally asked what had been sitting in her chest for days. "Why are you doing all this for me? I'm just some girl." Evelyn stopped, crouched to Sophia's level so they were eye to eye. "You're not just some girl," she said. "You're the reason I'm alive. And more than that, you reminded me of something I'd let the world talk me out of, that a person's value isn't their title, their bank account, or their polish. It's what they're willing to do for someone else when nobody's watching." Sophia felt something unfamiliar spread through her warmth that wasn't hunger or adrenaline. Belonging, safety, the kind of stability that lets a kid stop surviving and start growing. And that's the real twist no one inside Café Imperial expected. The warning that saved a billionaire didn't just prevent a death, it rebuilt a life that the city had been ignoring. So let me ask you, if you'd been sitting in that cafe, would you have listened to the smallest voice in the room? Have you ever seen someone do the right thing when it was risky, inconvenient, or unpopular? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories where courage shows up from the least expected places and changes everything, hit subscribe.